All right, good evening. We're going to call this meeting to order at 7:03 p.m. for the Tuesday, October 10th, Berlin Board of Education meeting. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so to kick off our meeting this evening, we have Willard students here. We have second grade, kindergarten and second grade, correct? And fifth? Fifth. And fifth, kindergarten, second, and fifth. Grade students here to present on Ruler. So I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Royce, and she can do the introduction.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you to Superintendent Benigni and the Berlin Board of Education for this great opportunity. Willard Elementary School is so proud of all we have accomplished thus far in regard to our social-emotional approach to learning. Through the Ruler approach, as you will learn about in our presentation, we have created staff and student charters to live by, learned to use the mood meter, and have started tapping into how to shift our emotions when needed to help regulate ourselves. These vital skills are helping us grow a more emotionally intelligent community of learners and citizens of the world. Here to tell you more about this are members of our Ruler team and student representatives from Allie Dunn, Meg Souza, and Jen Sulo's classes. So we have second grade, kindergarten, and fifth grade.
Give me an R.
R.
R is for recognizing. Give me a U.
U.
U is for understanding. Give me an L.
L.
L is for labeling. Give me an E.
E.
E is for expressing. Give me an R.
R.
R is for regulating. What's that spell?
Ruler.
So one of the key components of Ruler is that it is made up of 4 different anchor tools to help ground the work. And one of the most important anchor tools is the charter. And an important part of Ruler is also that staff goes through a year of Ruler work and Ruler training before we roll it out with students, so that teachers really have an opportunity to take on the work and feel what it feels like to regulate our emotions, understand our emotions, express our emotions. And so the charter is made up of 3 different parts. It's made up of how we want to feel, what we'll do to feel that way, and how we'll manage conflict. And the charter is what schools live by. And so our staff last year worked really hard to come up with our staff charter. It took many, many weeks to think about how we wanted to feel at school and what that means for building a school community. So our 6 feeling words for how our staff wanted to feel at school was supported, valued, respected, happy, balanced, and inspired. And then we worked really hard together to figure out how we could embody these feelings in our school. And you can see that the words are very big and bold and beautiful in our school community, so that we remember to live by them every day. And this year, all classes have gone through the whole process of creating their own charters. So you're going to get to hear about some of the charters now.
Hello. So in our kindergarten classroom, we created a class charter, and today we have Elena, Vincent, Zuzu, Steph, and Charlie to explain our class charter.
Our class is a family, and we want to feel calm, proud, safe, happy.
And then we came up with different ways that we're going to feel these every day, and we promised to use our words, be kind, follow directions, listen and learn, participate and share, and try our best. And we revisit this each day. We use our mood meter tools, and then we share our class promise each day, and then review our words on how we want to feel each day in kindergarten. Great job. I'm going to pass it to you.
So we also started working on our charter at the beginning of the year by doing things that were already familiar to children with read-alouds. We read the book We're Finally Here and talked about the excitement about coming to school. We read books like A Letter from Your Teacher on the First Day of School and Our Class is a Family. And the children, through the bunny in We're Finally Here, through the bunny emotions, also decided that there were emotions they felt when they came to school. And as a class, they all decided that when we're in our classroom E12, we want to feel loved, respected, cheerful, and proud. We started with a picture quilt for our charter and kind of individualized it for them personally in the classroom first. As our charter evolves, we're going to turn it more into a word form where we're going to agree upon similar goals for ourselves to follow and feel loved, respected, cheerful, and proud throughout the whole school year in the classroom.
Hello, so with the fifth graders this year, we started school with a really great discussion about how we have felt in school in the past and then how they want to feel this year. And they came up with a group of about 25 words, and from there we narrowed it down to 5. So the 5 words that fifth graders in L4 picked were safe, motivated, happy, focused, and calm. And we promised to feel safe by following all school rules, motivated by dreaming big, pushing ourselves, and setting goals, happy by balancing learning and fun, focused by making good choices to do our best learning, and calm by using strategies to be our best selves. So this is kind of the charter that we live by this school year. And now I'm going to invite my class up, and they're going to talk a little bit about the mood meter.
The mood meter is a tool that helps us build awareness of emotions in ourselves and others. It helps us understand how our emotions influence our thinking and behavior, and empowers us to recognize and label a full range of emotions and respond appropriately and wisely. These skills help us get along with others and make better choices in our lives.
Red feelings include being high in energy and low in pleasantness, like angry, scared, and anxious. Blue feelings include being low in energy and low in pleasantness, like sad, disappointed, and lonely. Green feelings include being low in energy and high in pleasantness, like calm, tranquil, and relaxed. Yellow feelings include being high in energy and high in pleasantness, like happy, excited, and curious.
If you're in the blue quadrant, one strategy for shifting out of it is to try strategy with movement, like putting on music and dancing, talking with a friend, or having a snack.
Another strategy for shifting out of the blue is to use self-talk to remind yourself of the big picture, or try positive reframing, which means putting a positive spin on a situation.
If you're in the red quadrant, one strategy for shifting your mood is go for a walk and exercise, or taking a few slow, deep breaths to clear your head and calm your body down.
Another strategy for shifting out of the red is to use self-talk. An example of this is saying to yourself, "This is a part of my day, but it does not define my day."
If someone else is involved in a situation that puts you in the red or blue, take a moment to think about their feelings or perspective too.
Thank you for allowing us to share our ruler journey with you. In summary, the mood meter shows that all emotions have a place and that all emotions are okay. Remember to ask yourself, where are you on the mood meter? What is causing you to feel this way? What word best describes your feeling? How are you expressing this feeling? And are you comfortable expressing it? How do you want to feel, and what strategy will you use to stay or shift?
How are you feeling?
While our kids are getting situated, we are going to ask you, how are you feeling? And it's important for us as grown-ups to always check in with ourselves as well, especially as we're with our kids all day. So we're going to ask you to take out your phones or your computers or your iPads, whatever you have, and we're going to ask you to go to moodmeter.online and enter in this code. And you'll find a mood meter with words when you go onto the mood meter so that you can plot how you're feeling. And our kids are going to walk around and help everybody get a sense of how they're feeling. So go ahead, you can all start plotting, please.
I am happy.
We're going to take a look at how we're all feeling. And be honest, it's an important part of it.
Tired? What else do you need to know?
How are you feeling?
You don't know?
Why are you happy?
Oh, yeah, were you nervous?
All right. Well, as we figure out the technology, we've been trying to pull up the mood meter so we could see where we're all plotted. So if you could imagine what it would look like, what you can see when a whole group plots their feelings is that you get a whole range. And it's really important in a classroom to see how that plays out along your day, across your day. So thank you all. We hope you're all feeling closer to the green or the yellow than when you came in. And thank you so much to our students.
That was very impressive, seeing kindergarten, second, and fifth grade and the different levels and how it's, happening in the classroom at different ages. Anyone from the board want to share their thoughts or ask the students any questions? Go ahead, Melissa.
I just want to say congratulations and what a great job you did to be able to talk in front of not only your family and friends, but even some strangers. And yes, you are on TV and you can watch yourself later. So just fabulous job, and thank you for the teachers for the investment into our students. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Who else wants to go? Ian, go ahead.
I have a question for the students. So I was just curious, when you do feel yourself going to the red or blue zone, are you implementing the methods that you're learning in class at your home? Listening to music, maybe talking to a friend or a parent? Just raise your hand, I'm just curious.
Well, yes.
Kinda.
Okay.
I listen to music at home.
I don't.
You don't? Okay.
What? I play with my dog.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Obviously, it's working very well.
All right, who else? Oh,
Playing outside.
Good.
mm-hmm.
I like to play with my hair. I like to play with my dog. I look at my baseball cards.
I play with my kittens and my puppy.
All right, who else? Thank you. So it's nice to see that some of the strategies that you're learning in school are going home, even if you don't realize it. Making that homeschool connection is really important. And I think it's great that initially everyone kind of thought about it, and then they all started coming up with ways that this is happening at home. So that's really cool to see.
If I could just close with, this is a K-12 initiative. It's in all of our schools. I think it's important for the audience to know that the importance in today's world of understanding yourself, your feelings, and understanding the feelings of others, and then how to regulate yourself within them and understanding others is a key point of success in life, right? And so as you see it here at the elementary school, it's different at the middle school and different at the high school, but it is something that we're working on K-12. So as students, our vision of a graduate, when students graduate, they have these skills as well as all the other academic pieces that they need. So I really want to thank the Willard staff and the Willard students and Mrs. Sorois and Mrs. Selena for being here tonight and sharing with us. So thank you all very much.
Thank you. I think we still have board members that want to share. All right, do we still have a few other board members that want to comment?
I just wanted to compliment all of you for demonstrating skills that not all adults can do. Not all adults can identify how they're feeling and put those feelings into words appropriately and find good strategies when we're feeling in certain zones, let's say. So the fact that you're learning these skills at the ages that you are is so incredibly important. And as Mr. Benigni said, these are skills that you will carry with you and probably teach others. So I just want to applaud you and tell you that you did an amazing job and have developed great skills. You should feel very proud right now leaving tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Did someone else have something to say at this end of the table? We got everyone? All right, well, thank you again. Let's give all the students and families a big round of applause. So as we are going to continue with our meeting, you're more than welcome to stay, but I know that it's getting late. It's 7:21, so you also can feel free to leave. There are cookies outside, so help yourself to the cookies on the way out. Thank you for coming. We are going to give you guys about a minute or so to make your decision.
Yes. He says, come on, Mom.
No.
Come on, Mom.
We should be asleep by the time we get home. Never know. So you can't risk it too. You got to go to bed right away because you could get enough, could not. I know. I said it was going to be sad whenever.
All right, so we are going to resume at 7:23. So we have another special presentation this evening. Patrice McCarthy, the Executive Director and General Counsel of Connecticut Association of Boards of Education, has been so kind to join us this evening to talk about CABE, our membership, the benefits, and how it benefits the board. So I will turn it over to you. Thank you for coming, and
meeting with us tonight.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I really do appreciate it. And that was delightful to see your students. I did not bring a mood meter with me as part of my presentation, but I do plan to write a journal article about how you begin your board meeting and how you are helping the community understand the Ruler program through the actions of your students. So they are definitely to be commended. I'm really here tonight to extend a personal invitation to you, as for each member of this board, to be even more engaged with CABE if you would like to do so. There are a variety of ways to do that. You already engage in many ways. Over the past several years, a number of you have been at the CABE CAPS convention, at our summer leadership conference, at our new board member leadership conference. We also, beginning at the start of COVID, really ramped up the number of webinars that we offer. And the good thing about our webinars is that we do record them. So if you're not able to participate in them when they're live, they are archived on the CABE website, so you have that opportunity for additional professional development. When I look at your website, I see the very impressive work that you're already doing. The core values and the guiding principles that you have are absolutely tremendous, and I've put them in my folder of examples to use when we work with other boards of education. But CABE has a variety of services. We are a nonprofit organization that has existed for over 100 years. I haven't been there the whole time, but I have been there a good part of that time. While I am fairly new to the role of executive director, I began in that role in July of 2022. I've been serving local school boards for my entire career. And what we aim to do is to customize our services to boards. So in addition to those statewide meetings and webinars that I talked about, we're happy to come out, any member of our senior staff, to do a workshop for the board on issues ranging from freedom of information, roles and responsibilities, new board orientation. We facilitate goal setting and strategic planning sessions for boards, and that's all part of the benefits of membership. We also are your advocates at the state and federal level. And no, the black eye did not come from an advocacy episode. It came from an encounter pruning a Rose of Shannon bush in my yard that had gotten a little overgrown and did not want to be pruned. But you have an opportunity to advocate with us through communications with your legislators. We send out action alerts throughout the legislative session, but we also have the opportunity for you to, anyone that's interested, to participate in our committees that set our legislative agenda. So right after the convention in early December, our State Relations Committee will meet and establish our legislative priorities. And we now have a hybrid format, so there is a Zoom option for your participation, and would encourage you to take advantage of that. I know the board has applied for the Communications Award and the Board Leadership Award, and those will be announced shortly before the convention, so I wish you success in that endeavor. I really would be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Two additional things that we have initiated. We have a monthly board chair check-in. We began that during COVID when it was a weekly board chair check-in. Things have calmed down a little bit. But it can be the board chair or someone that the board chair designates. It's been a great support group. All of our senior staff are on those calls, but the relationships that the board chairs have made with each other through that, they have found to be really valuable. And our new policy expert, Jody Goller, has just implemented a quarterly policy chair check-in. So again, an opportunity to have some guidance from our professional staff, but also for policy chairs to talk with each other about challenges that they're facing. And we know that there seem to be no end of challenges in public education these days. So with that, I would just invite you to ask any questions that I might be able to answer.
Thank you. Do you have a question, Carrie? I don't. No? Okay. Go ahead, Ian.
Examples of these workshops that you were discussing from any other boards that have also participated?
But
If you have any examples of the workshops? Yeah.
Well, the workshops that we deliver individually for boards of education range from that whole gamut of topics. But the webinars we've offered are very much tied to hot issues. So we've offered a webinar on policies around selection of books and dealing with controversial issues, challenges to books. We've offered a webinar on, multiple webinars on civility, on social emotional learning. So those are some of the examples that come to mind. We also have really tried to bring student voice to our programs. So for the past 2 years at our Summer Leadership Conference, we've had a student panel. And for the past 2 years, we have had student panels as featured general session presentations at the CABE CAPS convention. And our school board members are delighted to hear that perspective because they hear it in some cases. Not every school board has student representatives on it, but they hear it from their own board members, but then they also hear it from a broader perspective as well.
Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Peter, did you have something?
Cost of membership to CABE for this district, and is it a flat rate for every district, or is it based on the per cap or amount of students within a district?
It's primarily based on student enrollment, and Berlin's CABE dues are $18,700.
Okay. And you had made reference to a committee or something to that effect in terms of being invited to help set, what you guys work on in terms of the legislative agenda. How many people are, how is that committee comprised? How many members are allowed to sit on that committee? Does every district have the right to have a person on that committee, and so on and so forth? Essentially, what is the committee comprised of that helps to work together and set a legislative agenda within your organization?
So I'll take a step back and talk a little bit about the delegate assembly that sets the overall positions of the association. And every member board has at least one vote at the delegate assembly. The largest districts have 2 or 3 votes. So every board is entitled to participate at the delegate assembly. Our State Relations Committee is open to any interested board member. There is no limit. More than one board member from an individual board could serve if they were interested in doing that.
Okay. I think that's all the questions. Or actually, how many districts are a part of CABE, actually?
144 of the 166 districts. So 87% of the districts are currently members.
Okay, thank you.
What other, Gina, go ahead.
I have a question with regard to, when you talked about advocacy, we could advocate with you on the legislative aspect of things. Who determines what it is we're going to advocate for?
It is our state.
Who gets to decide what those issues are, and who gets to decide when you go to the table for it?
So our staff and our volunteer leadership, our executive committee primarily, are guided by the positions adopted at the delegate assembly, because we know that there'll be a host of issues that impact public education. Not all of those will be CABE affirmative priorities. So in some cases it will be, oh, it's another new mandate. We have a position that guides our testimony on that issue. So if we don't have a position on an issue and our board felt strongly about the issue, they could convene a special meeting and give us direction on that. That has happened very rarely because our positions are pretty much cover the gamut of issues that arise. In terms of CABE's affirmative priorities for any legislative session, those are determined by the board members who serve on the State Relations Committee.
Okay, thank you.
So in terms of the, for lack of a better term, sort of professional development that members of boards of education can engage in through CABE, how are those priorities determined? So I know obviously when we are first elected to the Board of Education. It's a wonderful initiation into this service. And then I wonder what it looks like in terms of your strategizing as an organization in terms of continuing to cultivate the skills and understandings of board members. Because, you know, I'm sure there are board members, as we've had on our board for decades in other towns as well. I just wonder how those priorities are set in terms of continuing to develop skills, understandings, maybe cross-pollination of ideas across boards of education.
And really, any of our workshops provide that opportunity, whether they're in person, which is still my personal preference, or virtual, which I know is more accessible to more volunteers who have busy lives and many other commitments. Our staff and our board of directors are always looking at what the current issues are, so making sure that we are addressing through our professional development emerging issues or issues that are coming back again into prominence, as well as making sure that there continue to be those basics that are offered, because we have members joining boards of education every month.
Right.
A vacancy is created, a new board member joins. We also realize that every time one member on a board changes, the board changes. It is a different board. And so that's why we're very happy to come out and do individualized professional development with a board of education, tailored to what they feel they need at that point.
Do you have a system for sort of polling the membership to get a sort of a sense of what shared needs or shared?
We certainly have done surveys over the years, and as part of all of our workshops, there's an evaluation that goes out afterwards that has an open-ended question about what would you like to see in future programs.
Mm-hmm. And then from where do you draw the, are they staff employed through the organization that are delivering these workshops, or do they come from elsewhere?
It depends upon the workshop. So the work with individual boards of education is performed by our staff.
Mm-hmm.
We do solicit for our annual, the CABE CAPS conference. The two organizations solicit proposals from school districts across the state. And then there is a committee of board members and superintendents that makes the selection. We generally get about 50 workshop proposals, and there are 20 workshop slots at the convention.
Okay.
And then the staff of the organization, when we are at national conferences, for example, are always on the lookout for potential keynote speakers that we might be able to bring back to Connecticut.
Okay. Thank you.
And when you do workshops with boards individualized, that does not cost any additional money?
That is part of your CABE dues, and we look forward to those. We really do look forward to those opportunities.
Thank you.
I have a question that actually just answered one of my questions. Another question, I want to piggyback off of what Gina had said just a little bit ago. So you talk about okay, first of all, every town is different.
Yeah.
Every town has different needs. Maybe every town has different things that we would want people to fight for legislation and everything. I'm curious as to the group that you have formed to go to legislation. Is it partisan, nonpartisan? Because we are the only town in Connecticut that we keep politics out of it.
Yep.
So a lot of this seems very political. So I'm curious how your board is made up and how much is fueled by politics.
Our board has never been driven by politics, and I have seen our board of directors over the span of 40 years. I don't know the political party of members of our board of directors unless I have to ask them, because sometimes to get them appointed to a task force where a legislator is making the appointment, they need to be of the same party as the legislator. So that's the only time that we delve into that information. I have come to know over the course of years that we have had a fairly balanced representation of leadership of our organization of both political parties.
Now, I have, talking about the classes, or I'll call them classes, workshops that you offer, not just coming out. I have benefited from quite a few of them. I actually enjoyed, I just feel that I think all in general is really geared, not all, but for the newer people coming in. So when I first came in, I utilized, so many of them. Loved the retreats, and lately I think we did a negotiation one, where I forgot what that was called. So
Collective
there are
bargaining.
Yeah, that was it, collective bargaining. There are a few that we have utilized and used. I don't know what else there could be, but I wish there was more for some more options for the more veteran, just to keep them refreshed. That it's a new, if that makes sense. Like,
It
you offer
absolutely-
a ton for new people.
It absolutely makes sense. And we are very open. If you have ideas for topics that you would like us to explore, we certainly are willing to do that. And we look at what our colleagues in other states are doing, and we borrow from them as well, because there are a number of school board associations that are much larger than we are. And we're not in competition with each other, so everybody's very willing to share their ideas and their materials.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
I will say, I'll speak on behalf of my own experience, over the past 8 to 12 months, I increased my involvement with the webinars or the board chair check-ins, or I've always gone to the summer leadership. This summer I couldn't attend because we were away, but I did go to the legislative wrap-up. And I feel like, as someone who's been on the board for 8 years, I do continue to benefit and grow my knowledge and understanding so I can be more effective. But that's just been my personal experience with committing to seeing what I can gain from it.
And I think for board members that are like you, that even a couple other people that love to just learn and learn and learn, I think CAVE is incredible for board members that have that opportunity. When people aren't involved, or they don't have the time, or they don't want to learn, it's not, CAVE is not CAVE's fault. It's just, it depends on the board, I guess. But I think CAVE does a great, I will say, testimony. You've done a wonderful job with a lot of your classes. All the ones I've taken, I've learned so much. So
Thank you for that. We do appreciate that. And we are also only a phone call or an email away. So when you have questions, our senior staff attorney fields a lot of questions from board members and superintendents. Sometimes right before a board meeting, you have a quick question. That's all part of your CAVE dues. Other state associations have structured themselves differently, but when you're a member, we are there for you.
And the one that you do that's coming up in November, the workshop, the big one,
The convention.
annual or whatever that one is, I went to it a few years ago. What's great is you do seem to be on topic with current things that need to get addressed or current questions. So that is nice that you are keeping up with that. And those classes, or those sessions that I had, were really good.
Thank you for that. I will bring that back to the hardworking staff that does the planning.
I will say, during dinner, I was talking with Melissa and Gina, and I was saying how I did have a policy-related question on Friday. I emailed Jody. I got a response back immediately. And then I asked another question and got another response back. This is, 4 o'clock on Friday. So, realizing I had this question and being like, okay, well, I'm a member of CAVE. This is part of the benefit. I'm going to utilize that. I did find that beneficial, and I did also appreciate the immediate response. Immediate. I was shocked because it was Friday. I didn't think I'd get a response till today. What other questions do you guys have, or comments, or anything?
So I'll just say that most of the board members actually asked the questions that I already had as I jotted down the answers. But I think for me, this is my second year, so still fairly new. And just understanding the inner and outer workings of everything. And I think ultimately, we have this resource, but it depends on us as an individual to take upon those opportunities, but also as a board to, push to advocate, well, maybe you should try this. I found this to be helpful. or, even just having a discussion, didn't even know that you could just contact, CABE to ask certain questions. So I was just kind of curious, because you did say 144,
Yes.
right, out of 166. Would you say that all of those districts are very active, some more than others, in terms of utilizing, the resources that are presented for board members?
I would say it ranges the entire spectrum, and it changes on an individual board over time. So if there are one or more very engaged board members or a very engaged superintendent with CABE, then there's a lot of involvement. If the board changes, if the superintendent goes to another district, then the involvement sometimes drops.
What other questions, comments? I think also a piece of it is having an awareness of like what is available to us and then utilizing that. I think if we're not aware of that, then I think it's more challenging. Patrice, what would you say, to board members who are not engaged or aren't aware? Like if you were to share, to board members, just like a quick overview. I know you kind of opened with it, but like what would you say the benefits are to, a collective board, but the individual members?
I would say that on advocacy issues, you all get our email updates, and those cover any education issue, whether the association is taking a position on it or not. So you have the opportunity to be aware of what bills are being considered in the Education Committee, the Appropriations Committee, the Committee on Children, Labor and Employment. All of the committees, we monitor the legislation. So you have that information, and you as a collective body or you as individuals could look at that and say, we want to make a statement about that. We want to pass a board resolution on that issue because we feel so strongly about it. Or we want to communicate with our legislative delegation. So that's an advocacy piece. The support is that we're always there. We're responsive on Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock. I would say to each of you, consider me your CABE concierge. If you don't know who to call, if you don't know if we can help you with something, send me an email. Julia knows that Jody is the person that does policy, so she's directly in contact with him. That's great. But if you're not sure, reach out and we'll be very honest. Yes, that's in our expertise. We don't write new reading curriculum or math curriculum. I can tell you that for sure. But a lot of other things we do have the expertise to help you with. And then the education piece is all the different professional development opportunities. And just being aware that, every Wednesday we send out an email that lists the things that are upcoming, so they're at least in one place for you. I know you get a lot of email, but if you just click on that and take a quick look and say, gee, that's a webinar of a topic of interest.
And then if it costs money, you just email Debbie and Brian. Two other questions I have for you. So what would you say the benefits to being a member of a professional organization such as CABE are? Because I think that's a discussion that comes up.
You have a huge responsibility, and you're volunteers. So you come to your board service without training. We do offer a candidates workshop, so you can have 2 hours of preparation before the actual election and being seated. But you have a huge responsibility to your community for student success, and you have a very significant fiscal responsibility. And it's really those two things that caused the legislature during the past legislative session to require that newly elected board members engage in professional development. And CABE, under the legislation, is working with the State Department of Education to design what that will look like. making sure a strong superintendent board team is critical to student success. And so being part of a professional organization that works very closely with the superintendent's organization will help you as a board and every other board be stronger. Because we really are, in these challenging times for public education, that collective capacity is so important.
Thank you. I have one last question, then maybe other people have any. But since you became executive director, what are some of the changes that you've, under your leadership?
Well, I've been with the association for enough time that I recognize the strengths of our staff, and I have tried to empower them even more than they had been previously, so that they engaged in some exciting initiatives using social media in the past year, where we actually did video clips of board members talking about their experience, what motivated them to be a board member, because we know it's increasingly difficult to find candidates for this highly paid position that you all hold. And so using technology and using school board members to convey that message, I think by sort of unleashing staff to take those initiatives has probably been a significant change.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, well, thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for your time, and thank you for coming out.
Absolutely. Have a good evening.
You too. Thank you so much. All right, so I hope that was helpful for everyone. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to Patrice, you can reach out to Brian, you can reach out to myself. We're going to move on to our committee reports and our report of student representatives. So turn it over to the two of you at the end of the table.
All right, so for the month of October, we have Spirit Week and Homecoming from October 16th to the 20th. BHS will be resuming its tradition of hosting our Spirit Week, where students participate in a variety of themes throughout the week and end it with a pep rally following the homecoming game on the 20th, excuse me. On the 21st, the homecoming dance will take place at BHS, where students will be able to show support for BHS and where seniors will be reminded of memories they have made over the past 4 years.
From the 15th to the 16th, Berlin Upbeat will be hosting their annual October weekend at Camp Jewel. This trip is designed to introduce students and staff to the program while also focusing workshops on how to work within a collaborative environment.
And then on the 13th, the Music and Arts Department will be hosting their annual cabaret. This is an event where students are able to perform either as soloists or in group arrangements as a fundraiser for the department. Tickets are $5 and can be purchased at the door.
This year's fall play will be taking a comedic twist on the classic Harry Potter series. The play is titled Puffs, one-act play for young wizards, as 3 young children explore their school that is exceptionally dangerous for children as they redefine what it means to be a hero. Performances will be on November 3rd and 4th at 7 p.m. in the BHS Auditorium, and tickets will be on sale soon.
And then on October 19th, the Model UN Club will be taking a day trip to New York City, where they will be meeting the ambassador of the United Arab Emirates, the country they are representing at the Model UN conference later in the year. During this time, students will ask questions about the country's policies, as well as what the UAE's stance is on certain issues in order to get a hands-on understanding of international relations.
Resuming the tradition of monthly Upbeat updates, the September update recounts the Berlin Fair and the Student Spotlight. In total, the Upbeat program has completed over 1,122.5 hours of community service from this year alone.
And then this year, BHS has now implemented a new digital system called SmartPass. Many students have found that it is easier to request a pass from teachers, and it does not interrupt class time. Additionally, many students also find it more convenient, as they can even schedule passes to a specific location prior to arriving.
Berlin High School was recently named to the AP School Honor Roll for 2023. This means that BHS students and staff have contributed to an advanced academic environment that upholds the principles of advanced placement courses.
And that's all we have for today. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for that update. Any questions for Anusha and Ian? All right. Moving on to committee reports. Did the curriculum committee meet? Did the community engagement committee meet? Okay. The F&O committee met on Friday, September 29th at 7 a.m. on Zoom. I know Ashley was there, Jeff, Brian, Adam, and myself, right? Am I missing anyone? We discussed the 2024-2025 proposed capital equipment for site and building requests. We discussed the 2024-2025 budget priorities, as well as the Griswold portables and HVAC specifications for Griswold and Hubbard. So that's what was discussed at that meeting. If you guys have any questions, we could answer them. Okay. We also met as an ad hoc last week to have the first reading of the policies and this evening we'll be having the second reading. We also discussed, as part of the policy discussion, the handbook revisions that were submitted. So thank you to everyone who submitted the revisions, and that is on the agenda a little bit later. Is there a CREC report?
No.
Nope, no CREC report. And any correspondence to the board?
No correspondence to the board this evening.
All right, we'll move on to audience of citizens. Is there anyone here that would like to approach the board? All right, moving on to personnel. We have a retirement. We have a few retirements, but the first one, do we have a motion for consideration?
I will move that the board accept the retirement of Janice Zagorski, teacher of health, wellness, and physical education at Catherine M. McGee School, effective June 30th, 2024. And also to thank her for the 25 years of service she has provided to the youth of Berlin and wish her good health and happiness in her retirement years.
Do we have a second? Second. So the motion by Carrie, the second by Matt. Was the whole motion captured for the YouTube? Can you just read it again? This was an important one.
Sure. I move that the board accept the retirement of Janice Zagorski, teacher of health, wellness, and physical education at Catherine M. McGee School, effective June 30th, 2024, and also to thank her for the 25 years of service she has provided to the youth of Berlin and wish her good health and happiness in her retirement years.
So we have the motion by Carrie and the second by Matt. And now we can open it up for discussion. I was surprised, but I wasn't surprised to see this on here. I know Jan always watches our board meetings prior to us being live on YouTube. She was always in the audience. Huge advocate for our students in Berlin and for our schools, and she will certainly be missed. Anyone else have any comments? Wait, make sure it's on. Is it on?
Am I on? I'm just going to assume that Jan is going to return to our Board of Ed meetings in her retirement, since she'll have time to do that. But seriously, I'm grateful. My daughter has the opportunity to be in Jan's classroom this year and has really enjoyed. So I'm glad that she has that opportunity in advance of Ms. Zagorski retiring.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? So the vote carries 7-0. We have another retirement. Do we have a motion for consideration?
That the board accept the retirement of Paula Riley Friedman, occupational therapist at Catherine M. McGee School, Mary E. Griswold School, and Richard D. Hubbard School, effective June 30th, 2024. Also to thank her for the 25 years of service she has provided to the youth of Berlin and wish her good health and happiness in her retirement years.
So we have a motion by Gina, a second by Carrie. Any discussion for Paula's retirement? Well, we wish her the best in retirement, and 25 years is very impressive amongst the 3 schools. We can move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Vote is 7-0. We have one more retirement. Do we have a motion for consideration?
Move that the board accept the retirement of Glenn Lewis, teacher of world language at Berlin High School, effective June 30th, 2024. Also to thank him for the 27 years of service he has provided to the youth of Berlin, and wishing him excellent health, happiness, and fulfillment in his retirement years.
Do we have a second? So the motion by Peter, the second by Matt. Any discussion? Well, we wish the best for Glenn Lewis, and 27 years is in fact impressive, and I hope he has a wonderful retirement. We can move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? 7-0. Moving on to new business. In our agenda in Schoology, we have the district enrollment report. I will turn this over to Brian if you want to talk about that.
And if you look at the copy of your district enrollment report, you can tell that we have a 0.5% change, a decrease, 14 students as compared to last year. Last year we had an increase of 13 students. So if you look at our 2 reports we subscribe to, the NEASC report as well as the Prada report, those are both projections. The projections stated that we would basically level off, which is kind of what's happening at this point. But I just remind the board that we do have the apartment complexes opening and some slated to be opening in the near future. So those should be taken into account within the projections. But as we noted in previous board meetings, there are still 2-family apartments and 1-family apartments that will be opened up to the public. I just want to draw your attention for next year in the budget, looking at class sizes in some of the schools. When the principals are preparing their budgets, there is some concern that our class sizes are getting above 20 or close to 20 in the primary grades. That's not typical to the class sizes that we've had in Berlin. So you may see coming forward within the budget some recommendations to hold positions and then to see where our enrollment is moving forward.
Any questions on the district enrollment report?
I have a question. I'm looking at the numbers here. Griswold is like 100 more than Willard. And I know we have portable classrooms that have expired 100 years ago. And are we talking or thinking, I'm not trying to cause any issue or anything, of rezoning or?
Redistricting?
Yeah, because I'm just saying 100 more, that's a lot. And I know that they're busting at the seams.
I think based on the programs and some of the programs that we have at Willard, despite the number being lower, the number of classroom spaces there is also rising. We're looking at our BLAST program there. As you look back at the update, the concern is the number of students and number of classrooms designated. So I'm not so sure we can do a complete analysis, but you bring up a great point. We are right now studying the classroom portables. We've asked them to be evaluated further, but they are definitely, as you said, many years past the life expectancy. But believe it or not, the preliminary reports are saying that they are in decent shape, believe it or not. So, but I think, I was talking to someone about years back, I want to say it was probably more than 20 years, that there was some redistricting that went on to adjust for size. But right now, if you look at either building, whether it's Griswold without the portables is an issue, and Willard right now is at, believe it or not, is at capacity as far as classroom space usage because of the specialized programs that require.
Yeah, I know the black,
space,
okay.
right.
Usually they're just a little closer, aren't they, on numbers? Like I thought the 100 was.
If you look down, you can see that they're.
Oh, wait, I didn't see that. I'm
Yep,
sorry.
Yep, you got the historical there. You're absolutely right. Like if you look back, 497
Yeah.
to 503, you're absolutely right, Tracy.
Okay, that was it. I was
Nope,
just curious
nope.
where.
It's a definitely, if the portables are no longer usable, then that'll be something that will have to come back to the board to make some decisions about usage.
Thank you. Okay, anything else on this? All right, moving on to the choice report. Would you like to talk about the choice
Sure.
students enrolled?
So you have a form in your packet that looks at the number of seats, what students are at each building. And as you can see, at the high school, the number of students at the high school being 22, McGee 17, and then Griswold and Hubbard and Willard. We hope to have 25 seats. We offered 25 seats. We only have 16 seats filled. We lost a number of students last year. When students no longer reside in Hartford, they're no longer eligible for the choice program. And so we did lose students last year because of just moving out of Hartford. But for this last 2 years, we've fallen below the 4% that we typically operate at. We're operating at 3.6% based on the population this year. So that does have an impact on the budget. I know that we don't take choice students just for the budget, but those funds are used to fund staff and programs and other things too, not just for choice students, but for regular education students and regular education students that are Berlin students, as well as regular students that are choice students, as well as special education students and so on. So there is a difference in the funding. And not to say we don't still have those seats open, we do, but most districts, the numbers for choice are down. There's been changes in the choice program. The director passed away last year after a number of years, after a long battle with cancer. There's people that have been involved in choice for a number of years with transportation thing that have recently retired. So choice is kind of going through a re-overhaul of its program and who's at the helm. And transportation continues to be an issue with choice. And parents often will have their students enroll in choice, and when the transportation doesn't start for 2 weeks late, 2 weeks prior to after the start of school for other students, or students are being picked up hours after they should be, it causes some frustration and parents, and it's really out of our hands. We do contact the correct transportation that deals with it, but we don't control the transportation, and that continually hinders the program. So we still have the seats open. They're still available. The likelihood of filling the seats, I don't think so, maybe one or two. The practice that we've had in place for years is the same. We usually take a K and 1 to start, and the hope is that the students transition through the entire choice program. If the students who are accepting in K or 1 have a sibling at a different grade, we often take the sibling also. And that practice has served us well over the last, I want to say that we've done this now for at least 6 or 7 years, accepting at the K and 1 level.
Any other questions or comments from the board regarding the choice report? Can I ask a question, but go back to the number
Sure.
for something else real quick? Do we have the number? I know we've said it before. How many of our students have been or are attending magnet schools? Do we have that number? And then do we even know how many attend a private school?
We have both those numbers. I can get you those numbers.
Oh, I'm just curious.
Oh, no, I can get you those numbers. No,
Okay.
absolutely.
And I'm sorry, the choice, I have no questions.
I'll put a note here. I can send those to you this week.
Okay. Moving on to approval for requests for capital funding. So Ashley, would you like to go ahead and report on the status of the current projects?
Hello. So the budget season primarily starts off or kicks off with the submission of the capital plan to the town. This year I'm taking a little bit of a different approach to our past submittals, just to highlight areas of need in hopes to secure funding for some projects that are much needed. The process starts off by requesting information from building principals and department heads. I meet with the requesters to help visualize what exactly they're requesting, and then I work with the superintendent, Jeff Cugno, and the town facilities department to prioritize requests before presenting it to you and the town. Please keep in mind that these requests are anticipated expenditures of $25,000 or more. So through this process, the four requests that we determined to be the priority projects for the upcoming fiscal year are the McGee Science Labs, the Hubbard Library, fire suppression at BHS, and school transportation vehicles. So the priority project for the capital fund is the McGee Science Labs. Labs are the original 1969 design, which no longer fully function, the NGSS. They're outdated with several stations that have broken countertops, broken cabinetry, and limited board and floor space. As you can see in these few pictures here, this is various classrooms, the 5 that we're requesting to be redone. And these pictures really don't do the labs justice, so I highly suggest that we do a site visit, or you do a site visit to walk through these labs yourself and really see the conditions of the space. We are currently, the estimated cost at this time is to be determined. We are working with an architect to do a plan and a design to help us establish a high-level estimate to bring forward to the town. The second project in line is the renovation of the Hubbard Library. This will include the redesign of the bay window to give access to the courtyard and to replace the carpets, which have been heavily stained despite efforts to clean it. Hubbard would be the last library to go through any type of renovation throughout the district. Pricing and specifications are also to follow on this particular project. Additional priority projects include the fire suppression systems over at BHS. When the high school was designed or renovated, they used a water sprinkling system in our network closets. So in the event of any kind of catastrophic event, like such as a fire, district operations would come to a halt. The plan is to phase in fire suppression systems periodically throughout the year as we move forward in the district. So the first would be the 7 network closets at BHS. The following year would be network closets at McGee, and go through the district as follows. And finally, the last priority request is student transportation vehicles. You're going to see this request every year. It's to replace and maintain our daily fleet. We have 36 vehicles in fleet right now. 21 of these vehicles have mileage over 100,000 miles. And as with most vehicles, maintenance and repair costs increase with age and mileage. So those are our priority projects. We also have other capital requests. So these are high-level expenditure requests that, in an ideal world, if we didn't have to worry about availability of funding, we would move forward with these as well. However, the approach this year is to focus on the areas of need and the ones that need the most support. Items on this list are also made available to you if you feel that one of these projects should be prioritized over one of the other 4 that you had previously seen. What you also have in your packet is what we're calling the priority projects, which is essentially, what essentially means, yes, I went backwards. Oh, there we go. So yes, the expenditures are over $25,000, so it is in a sense a capital project. But there are also repairs and maintenance that can potentially be done gradually throughout the school year by partnering with the facilities department. So rather than 6 entry areas, maybe this year we phase in 2. So bringing down those expenditures below the $25,000 threshold and slowly chipping it away at our repair and maintenance. So these are just a handful of projects that building principals and department heads submitted that we would like to do moving forward if funds become available. I'm just going to have you kind of glance over it. Mr. Campbell was probably the only one who was honest about the preliminary estimate, whereas everybody else kind of did their best guess based on old estimates. We need to do some updating here in cost, but of course, getting updated costs comes to us at a cost. So that's why we have. And that's all I have for the capital plan for fiscal year 25. So I'll open it up to any questions, comments, or concerns.
Before we open it up to questions, do we have a motion for consideration?
I move that the board approves the request for capital funding as presented for submission to the town of Berlin.
Do we have a second? So the motion by Melissa, second by Carrie. All right, now we can open it up for Ashley. Any questions for Ashley? All right. Presentation was that good? No one has questions? Oh, Peter does.
Detail question. So for the renumbering of the rooms in the high school, $120,000, what does that fully entail?
For which one?
The renumbering of the rooms in sequential order?
Oh, sure. So I don't know if you've ever taken a tour of BHS, but we go from 1,500 to 1,600 to 1,800, and there's really no sense to it. And it could be problematic when you're trying to explain to somebody this is how you get to the tech ed lab or the math wing. We have renumbered the exterior, so it's not an issue from a safety standpoint. So in the event of a fire, the fire department knows this is the 600 block. But it's really just for ease of access inside the building. Next time you walk around this building, you'll notice that it is a little weird.
I gotcha.
Can I ask to go off of Peter here? $120,000 for numbers? I mean, I'm sorry, you buy a plaque at Walmart and stick it up on the wall. I'm not saying you do that. I'm just saying, that seems like a lot
So
of
it's
money.
not just the numbers on the wall, it's redrawing the schematics of the building because room 1600 will no longer be room 1600. So it's an actual design plan. And for a building this size and for the number of nooks and crannies in a building this size, it's a lot.
Well, I get that, yeah. Okay, thank you for clarifying. I'm not just asking, I thought that was a lot.
And you're saying, sorry, just for further clarification.
You're saying that, I don't know. You're saying that from a safety standpoint, that's already been addressed in terms of educating any first responders?
Yes.
As to what, but that would also be obviously something that would be communicated to them, and that would be an issuing of the new schematics, that would be.
Yeah, that was addressed maybe 2 or 3 years ago by the facilities department and the security staff to make sure that in the event of an emergency, the first responders do know where the buildings, how the numbers of these hallways work.
Related to that, I have a question about safety. I have a question, and I don't know if this is a question for John Schmaltz as opposed to you, but the campus safety system, what is that?
So that is the all alert system, and that is basically it's a mass communication system that we would use in the event of an emergency. So if we need to go into a lockdown, a teacher can activate a lockdown from their phone as opposed to how they're doing it in place now. So it's a mass communication device.
Do you know what that system is? Out of
I
curiosity?
believe they were looking at Alertus, but they did also get a different type of system. I don't have the specific name, but I could give you the name of the other system they were looking at a couple weeks ago.
And were there not grants available for that purpose?
There are. The security grants are available to it. We did actually apply for a couple of the mass communication grants the first time around, and we were only awarded like $15,000 for one of the elementary schools. And we can't implement a mass communication security system in one school and not the
Right,
others,
agreed.
because we want that as a district-wide initiative, and all kids need to be getting the same message from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade.
Absolutely. That was a state grant? for
They are
which you
state
applied?
grants through the Department of Defense.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Okay, we can move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, so did everyone vote on that? 7-0? All right. Thank you, Ashley. Moving on to our next agenda item, we have a number 8 policies for the first reading that Shipman and Goodwin has recommended revisions to these policies based on statutory regulatory changes, citation updates, or best practices. On October 4th, the ad hoc committee did meet to discuss these proposed revisions. Since this is a first reading, we do not have to take any action this evening. And at our November 27th meeting is when we will adopt the policies. Any questions, comments, discussion around these 8 policies on the agenda?
Informed, it will not be told to students at the high school level, it will be reported on
Wait, can you just speak up? We can't hear
Yeah.
you down here, sorry.
Sorry. So for the last policy, will this mean that now class rank percentile will be told to students at the high school level?
Class rank and percentile is not something that's shared with students at this time, so this does not mean that it will.
Okay.
It does not. If students want to know their class rank, it is calculated. We just don't share it any longer.
Hang on, I'm gonna pull up this policy, but. I don't see that one in Schoology, so. I have it in my bag from our meeting. I see. So, maybe I don't have it in my bag. Which one, what'd you say?
6146 you're looking for? It's in Schoology.
I'm looking here, I do not see it.
There you go.
Okay.
It's more about the GPA calculation than the rank, because your GPA is what will allow you, what the new policy does is that if your GPA will allow you to enter certain schools, we have to make knowledge to the students of that.
Okay, thank you. Ian, did that answer your question? Okay, great. Okay, any other questions about these policies? All right, moving on. So in November of 2022, there was grant funding for HVAC upgrades for public schools. I'm going to turn this over to Brian to discuss this a little bit more as we discuss the approval of HVAC upgrades for Griswold School and Hubbard School.
So I'm actually going to ask Ashley to come forward again to give you, Ashley worked on these grants. The first time that we were offered the grant, we were not eligible for it. We did not qualify. So I'm going to have Ashley, who's been working on these, to submit forward for the second revision. And we spent time contacting the state and asking where deficiencies were. But part of it was, and Ashley can give you more detail, is that we already had things in place and other districts were in a different place than where we were in Berlin. So what their qualifications for the grants were much higher. Ashley, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Hi. So one of the deficiencies within our grant application was the educational specifications. And when we heard back from the contacts over at the Department of Administrative Services, it was that the ed specs were over a year old. So these originally came to you in 2020, in June of 2020. Mr. Cugno drafted an ed spec. They weren't itemized, so it was an ed spec for all 3 elementary schools, and this particular grant that we're working towards is very specific, and it needs to be, every part of the application needs to be itemized. So 1 educational spec per building, per grant application. So we had to take what we had in June, separate it out, so you're getting your Willard, not your Willard, I'm sorry, you're getting your Hubbard and your Griswold educational specs. We also were able to revise it to include some of the study that we did in 2020 to include the air quality study that we had. Now this ed spec is based off of a facility study that is over 10 years old, or approaching 10 years old rather. That can be seen as a deficit in itself, but realistically, facility assessments, they're not done annually. They're done usually they're usually done whenever there's an issue or we need to move forward on a particular project. And since we did not get any funding for HVAC, since we have approved, or we haven't made any renovations to these two buildings since moving forward on these HVAC projects. The information we received from that 10-year-old study is still accurate. They are still in need to be done. The project is essentially the same. We're replacing the classroom ventilators. The Griswold system is 32 years old, well past its life expectancy. The Hubbard system is 31 years old, again, past its life expectancy. And this is just an important part of the process in order to be able to apply for the grant coming up in December. That's all I really have.
Thank you. Stay there because we'll make a motion and then during the discussion if there's more questions. Do we have a motion for consideration?
To approve the educational specifications for HVAC upgrades at Mary E. Griswold Elementary School as presented.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Carrie, second by Tracy. Any discussion?
I just think it's important for the board to know that we're doing everything we can to apply for these grants. And the amount of time and effort that's put into the grant and then to receive no funding and to be told that you're in a better place than others despite being 32 or 31 years out. We know the systems have to get updated. The town knows they have to get updated. It would be great to have additional funding to, supplement some of the taxpayer dollars that are going to be put towards the system. So just so you know, we're making every effort. Jeff and Ashley are both working on it and, trying to get this so that they're in this, that we're answering all the questions, dotting all our I's, crossing all our T's, and making sure that we're giving as much information as we can to the state to give us funds, I guess is the best way to put it.
All right. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Vote is 7-0. Moving on to same thing, but for Hubbard. Do we have a motion for consideration?
I move to approve the educational specifications for HVAC upgrades at Richard D. Hubbard Elementary School as presented.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
So motion by Carrie, second by Tracy. Any discussion? I do want to say I like that you guys did not take no for an answer and you went back to figure out how you could improve the grant and then resubmitted it. So I think that's really, really important. So to give you guys recognition and credit for that.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I just want to say I don't know what else we could have done, quite frankly. So I do appreciate the effort.
So this is a highly competitive grant,
Yep.
and their first round, they only issued, I can't even remember the number, a very small, limited number of applications. So in order to put forward the most competitive grant application, it makes sense to reach out to whoever I possibly can to get any type of clarification. So fortunately, it's simple stuff like this. So I'm hoping that we're put in a good spot for round two. But again, priority are schools without any type of air conditioning at all. So we are competing against a lot of schools that are in that predicament.
That having been said, I just echo Julie's statement about, I appreciate your persistence in pursuing this, so.
When we're talking about security or we're talking about HVAC, when you're comparing what we have to others, oftentimes, despite it being 30 years old, we're still in a better position. Same thing with security, so we don't fare as well as others do for it. So, the discussion we've had is we're doing the right thing, like with security, and we're allocating district funds to take care of things. But then when others aren't there or haven't, then the state kind of funds them through the grants to catch up. And that's been a little bit of the issues we're facing. But we also feel that an obligation despite the time to do it, because if we didn't and we're able to get the funds, it's a savings to the taxpayer. So that's been our constant discussion. Yeah.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, 7-0. And thank you, Ashley and Jeff and everyone who put all of this together to make that happen.
Moving on to board goals, so posted in Schoology is a copy of the 23-24 goals and objectives. So I'll just open it up to the board. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns regarding our goals for this year? Anyone want to share anything? Any objections to them? Okay. Do you want me to read them out loud? No?
That's up to you if you want to. I mean,
So the goals are the Board of Education, the Berlin Board of Education will maintain broad, rigorous performance standards in all areas of curriculum that facilitate independent critical thinking and strategic problem solving among students, engage our community through effective communication, utilizing a multitude of means that reach all stakeholders, and develop and adopt a responsible fiscal annual budget, develop and maintain a 10-year capital plan encompassing both facility maintenance and technology equipment to ensure that the ever-changing educational needs of students are met, and provide feedback and oversight to financial decisions. And that the objectives were discussed in the committees, and they are below. If there is no discussion, we can move on, but.
the one thing I want to talk about at some point is a sustainability plan, like a 5-year sustainability plan. I just think we're seeing that when we have positions open, there's very few candidates that are available for those positions. And I just think that in the years to come, there'll be less and less teachers and administrators, just personnel that are available for positions. And so any organization, to maintain that organization, it's the quality of the individuals you bring into the organization. So I think at some point, it doesn't have to be now, maybe it's for next year, whatever, if there was a subcommittee to discuss from the board to look at, an ad hoc committee, sustainability and what we would do to be highly competitive as we're retaining, recruiting, and hiring highly qualified teachers and administrators, educators, to encompass everyone.
Okay, so I think that's a discussion we will continue to have in future meetings. But if there's no other discussion around board goals, we can move on to our next agenda item, the proposed revisions to the board member handbook. So at our board retreat on August 25th, we discussed making revisions, asking all board members to just read through it, and then if there's anything that they identified that may or may not need it to be changed. And I heard back from most board members with either no changes or minor changes. Then we went through the proposed revisions and the ad hoc, and that has now been posted in Schoology. If there are no issues or concerns with the proposed changes, then we can move forward. It was important to get this loop closed before our new board starts. We'll definitely have one vacancy with one new member, if not up to three new board members potentially. And so it's important that our board handbook and this piece of it is squared away. Does anyone have any comments or questions that they want to discuss about this process or the revisions?
I just think it's important that any of the changes were minor throughout if they were abbreviations or acronyms for things, we just deleted them and put new ones in. If there were new ones, or just deleted them. But everything else that changed or was added is now blue in the document, so you can see that there really wasn't that much change or that much updating that was done.
Any questions or comments about this? No? Okay, so we don't need to take action on this, correct? No action needs to be taken, it's just a discussion, and then I hope you all had time to review the changes that are outlined in blue, and then we can have those finalized. Yes?
We're good, we're good. No.
Good?
Good.
Okay. Okay, so at least this will be all set for our, new board members coming on in November for our board member orientation. All right, moving on to our next item, the consent agenda. Do we have a motion for consideration?
I move that the board approve the consent agenda as presented.
Do we have a second? So the motion by Melissa, the second by Carrie. Any discussion? Okay, we can move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, 7-0. Before we move to our adjournment, I just want to say that this is our last meeting as this board is a collective. I want to thank Matt for all your service on the board. I know you had a brief break and then came back, and your input and voice has been so valuable. Serving on the F&O committee, past board chair, you bring a wealth of knowledge, and it's always appreciated, so thank you. You will be missed. You're welcome. And then I want to wish Gina and Carrie the best of luck. They're on the ballot next month, and hopefully they return to the board, and but I can't give my own opinions. I just wish you guys the best of luck, because your time and commitment here is valuable and appreciated. Does anyone else have any thoughts they'd like to share as Matt departs us?
I just want to thank Matt again, just the knowledge he's brought, and especially being a new member, incredibly insightful, so I greatly appreciate it.
Do math really fast.
Yeah.
Just by looking at the numbers, it's like, holy cow.
That we sat together for an interview initially, and sat together as our fates were decided, and we were initially appointed to the board on the same night. So I feel very bonded, and now feel very abandoned by you. No, just kidding. I'm grateful to have gone through this journey to this point with you, so thank you for being my partner in this.
Matt, I just want to thank you as a new superintendent 5 years ago for you being the board chair and my inaugural year, and just setting a standard, and I appreciate all of your support throughout the time. It's meant a lot to me, so thank you.
So thank you all. It's been an honor to serve with you. It's been an honor to serve with the people who were before you. Over the course of 8 years, there's a lot of them. And Carrie, it seems to me that when we came on, a whole lot of people went off at the same time, so we saw quite a bit of change. But I challenge you to continue the good work that's been done, and remember that we're here to serve the students first. The beauty of being on the Board of Education is that we are equal to town council, not below the town council. And just remember that's what it is. We are nonpartisan for a reason. Try to keep ideologies out of your decision-making. It's really about the students, about the staff, and about our education system. You take care of those three things, you take care of your community. So.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
All right, well, on that note.
I got this one.
Okay, go ahead, Matt.
Motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second? Carrie? So motion by Matt, second by Carrie. All those in favor? Aye. We are going to adjourn the meeting at 8:38. Thank you, everyone, for a wonderful meeting.